The Audi RS6 Avant is by far one of the coolest cars on sale in the United States right now. It's a wagon, it's a high performance wagon, and now we're also getting the RS6 Avant GT. However, you're gonna have to pay up if you want to get one of these here in the United States and I guess across the world, because the pricing for this is pretty spectacular, but I think it's worth it because it's such a unique car, and the obvious wheels make up for a lot of that in a sense when it comes to the aesthetics of this car. So we're gonna have a look at this design and talk about the front side and rear interior. I want to change a couple of things in the interior. I mean, if you're paying this kind of money for this Audi RS6 Avant GT, I want to have some different materials in the interior. But first of all, let's have a look at this article from CarBuzz and see what this is all about. So 4 years ago, Audi presented the RS6 GTO as a concept showing just how extreme the RS6 Avant could get. And earlier this year, the German automaker revealed the production version as the RS6 Avant GT. Now, there are a couple of things, specifically in the rear end, that I would like to see from the concept that they didn't implement into the production version here. And when it comes to the graphics, we're going to have a look at that in a minute as well. Now, at the time, Ingolstadt confirmed that only 660 examples would be made, 85 of which would make it to the US, but it did not reveal any pricing. But they have now, though. So this will starting price for this Audi RS6 Avant GT is $198,900. So it's up there when it comes to, wagon prices, and that is excluding destinations. So it's closer to 200,000 in comparison to the regular RS6 Avant performance, $128,490. This represents an increase of nearly 55%. So you can think of it like this. Do you want to get the regular RS6 Avant, and on top of that, you can also get the brand new Audi RS3 and have both cars for $200K, or do you want to get one of these RS6 Avant GTs? The thing about this, though, I think this is maybe going to be a collector's item. I'm not sure. Maybe it will increase in value over time because it is such a unique car, and the GT is powered by a twin turbocharged 4-liter V8 that delivers up to 621 horsepower and 627 pound-feet of torque, which is the same. You don't get a power increase here. I would like to see this be maybe closer to 700 horsepower just to make a little bit of a difference compared to the regular RS6 Avant. However, the deletion of roof rails for the first time on an RS6 and the addition of lightweight components like carbon ceramic brakes, carbon fiber body panels, including the hood and the roof, help reduce the weight here by 88 pounds. 0 to 60 is a tenth quicker than the standard car at 3.2 seconds, and the GT's top speed is rated at 190 miles per hour. This is an Autobahn beast, this thing. I love everything about this car. The design, the graphics all around, the inspiration from the old rally cars from Audi, and also, of course, the white obvious wheels. It's 3/10 quicker to 0 to 60 than the new M5 Touring, which also weighs a whole lot more than this because of the hybrid system. But the top speed is about the same, 190 miles per hour. So you do get this 22-inch obvious wheels, a large roof spoiler, a redesigned front fascia. The redesigned front fascia compared to the regular RS6, I think it just looks so much more confident with the static lower section, big intakes on the sides, and instead of having this cutout, this 45-degree angle that we have on the regular RS6, which still looks good, but I just think this takes the design to a whole new level. We also have unique front fenders and hood components help set the RS6 GT apart from everyday traffics, and every single one of the RS6 Avant GTs produced for the global market will pay tribute, I love this, to the Audi 90 Quattro IMSA GTO race car from 1989, which means Arcona white paint, a red, gray, and black livery, unique badging, and of course, the stunning 22-inch obvious wheels, which I think they should put on more models. If I could buy these wheels on and just slap them on pretty much every single Audi, I would be very, very happy. So inside, RS seats upholstery is upholstered in Volcona leather with the RS6 GT logo, are complemented by red and copper double stitching and crimson red seat belts. So with that said, here we have this beauty. Look at how sick this looks. Now, the rear end here is something that I wanted to change. If you look at the concept has a black sort of mask going around the taillights here, and that would be very cool to see in this car, because if you look at the front end, it is very, very blacked out here. There's a huge grille, and I want to have some more of these black components in the rear end, even though we do have a big rear diffuser here. So with that said, let's jump into Photoshop here and let's have a look at this design, and I'm gonna let you know exactly why I love this design. Is it worth $200,000 though? You know what I would do? If I had to spend $200,000 on Audi performance products, I would probably just get the regular RS6 Avant and an Audi RS3 as well, and just call it a day instead of just having one high performance car like we have right here. But as I said, this is also sort of a collector's item, and I think it's actually going to hold its value. So looking at the front end here, what I love about this compared to the regular RS6 Avant is if you look at this design right here, we have one single line right here going down into the corners of the front end, opening up this huge mouth in the front. We also have one single line at the bottom. Now in the normal RS6 Avant, you have these fins, sort of intakes going up in this angle, which again, it doesn't look bad. But if I look at which one looks more aggressive, which one looks more confident in the front end, I do think this lower section, it really improves the confidence of this face. I love that we have the three intakes here up top, a homage to the Ur Quattro from the rally days of Audi, and we also have, of course, the same headlights as we have on the regular RS6 Avant with the LEDs, which probably does some sort of animation when you turn this car on. Now look at the graphics here. This is the only spec that I would like to have this car in, because it reminds me so much of old rally cars from Audi, and that is of course the point. And these graphics up top sort of looks very similar to what BMW is doing these days with the CSL models, to have some black graphics up top on the hood, kind of stretching down to the middle of the grille. But what Audi did differently here from what BMW is doing is that this looks way more automotive and dynamic. It has different thicknesses to it, more curvatures, more organic, and that is what I want to see. BMW's is very, very static here. It almost ends very abruptly, and in my opinion does not look as good as this. I also like that the lines of this, if you see the black graphic here, has a connection to these teeth that stick up in the front end as well. So overall the front end just looks great. It's super aggressive. Probably one of the biggest grills in the automotive field at the moment, with these massive grills that we have on the side, and also of course the main grill here in the middle. Now looking at the side view here, there's one very interesting line in the side view. First of all, the RS models pretty much always get these added thicknesses to the fenders, and I love this little cutout that we have in the front fender, creating very nice beefy planted look for the front end. I do believe that this outlet here is supposed to reduce the wheel turbulence, the air pressure inside of the wheel well, so you have some air shooting out here. But then we have this shoulder line. I didn't notice this until just now. I don't think I've talked about this before, but you have this curved shoulder line right here, dipping down a little bit in this area, and then dipping back up in the rear end. It doesn't really have a clear connection to what's going on in the graphics in the rear, but for that, they added another line here. So you have almost like a double shoulder line here in the back, and then it fades out in the front door, and then coming back in the front end very sharp again. And this being an Avant, of course, being a station wagon, one of the best looking station wagons out there, specifically in the RS6 GT, because we have this huge, massive spoiler in the rear end. Just look how beautifully this sends off the design. You can see almost the air flow, how the air flows all around this car. And then last but not least, the 22-inch obvious wheels. I mean, these are some of the, if there was a Hall of Fame for wheel designs, I would put this in the top 3, these obvious wheels, because they have so much history from Audi, going back to the first Audi S3s and S4s that I fell in love with as a kid. They have a very simplistic design, and I love how they spoke out here, or kind of goes a little wider at the very top with this hollowed section in the end point of each spoke. Super simple design, and this is all you need for a good looking wheel design, specifically in white, with the rest of the body being white as well. You have a diffuser in the back that carves out some of this volume. It also carves out some volume down here in creating a very sporty side profile for the Audi RS6 Avant GT. Now looking at the rear end here, if you look at the interior, I'm not sure which is my favorite view for this, because I can't decide. I just love every single angle of this car. The rear end looks absolutely stunning as well. As you can see, beefy planted design. Here you can more clearly see this interesting looking shoulder line that dips down here, curvature down into the top of the rear fender, wide rear fender in the back, and then it comes back right here. This line looks sort of maybe a little bit out of place. It feels like it doesn't have a clear direction to it. I'm not sure if I would want to keep this or just remove this altogether and just have this line fade in the front of the rear axle, and then not have it come back in the rear, because we do have, as I said, this shoulder line here as well. And look at how beautifully chamfered this little piece is here. This shoulder line wraps around the corner of the back, goes into the rear fender, and then creates this nice subtle little chamfer going above the taillights. Looking beautiful. We have sort of a hammer shape for the taillights here as well. Thankfully they didn't go with a full light bar for this generation RS6 or A6 Avant in general, but that's probably something that's going to change for the next generation. I can almost guarantee that Audi is going to put a light bar right here for the next generation A6 Avants. We'll see. Further down low, we do have a proper bumper. I love to see these sort of bumpers when you have a proper protruding piece like this that looks like an old school normal bumper and not something that's very flush with the rest of the body. I like to see bumpers like this, and we have a very aggressive rear diffuser as well that I do think looks better than the normal RS6 Avant, because we don't have this silver chamfer going around it. Very thick plastic piece. Or you can probably have it in carbon fiber on the normal RS6 Avant. You can also have it in black if you want to. But just having it dialed down a little bit, that specific chamfer in the back, makes it look a little cleaner in the back. And last but not least, these dual spoilers up top. You have one regular RS6 Avant spoiler here, and then they decided to go crazy with this big wing that we have up top. So they added a dual spoiler for the RS6 Avant GT. I love that they did that. It looks very, very clean, and of course aggressive in the rear, and definitely helps with the airflow going over this long roof version. Now looking at the interior here, a couple of changes that I want to do here is if you compare this to a regular RS6 Avant, this doesn't look very, very different from that. So you see all these pieces down here, still gloss plastic. This could have been carbon fiber, in my opinion. I mean, if you're paying $200,000 for a car, you want to have some special materials, not just on the exterior, but also on the interior. But thankfully, we still have the housing for the gauge cluster, which is sadly going away for Audi now. If you look at the new models that they've come out with, everything is just dual screen setup on the dash, which I hate to see everybody doing these days. I'd much rather have something like this. I don't mind having a digital gauge cluster, but as long as you keep it separated and different from the infotainment screen. In this case, we have a separated screen down here, which I also think is a good idea for the climate control settings, even though I would much rather prefer to have everything in relation to the climate settings be physical. And then you have the main infotainment screen up here for all the drive settings and everything you need to adjust in the car. So I do like that they separated these in two different screens. It makes it a little bit easier to figure out what you want to do in the climate settings. Gear selector here, you have of course the paddles, very small paddles. I would like to see these also be different for the RS6 Avant GT. Have them be big surfboard carbon fiber paddles, something like this, and make it feel a little bit more exclusive than the regular RS6 Avant. Love the honeycomb stitching on the seats here, looking very, very cool. And the ambient lighting looks nice as well. This, again, black plastic, gloss plastic. Feels a little cheap for a $200,000 car. This could also be sort of matte carbon fiber or something like that. I'm not sure if you can actually spec your R6 Avant GT to have the interior be like soaked in carbon fiber, but that's something that I would like to see. So overall, glad to see that this is coming to the States. And I hope to see this one in real life at some point. 80, I think they said 86 units are coming here. So there is a small chance if you, for example, go down to South Florida, you're definitely going to see one or two of these around if you go to car shows and so on. Hopefully someone here in Colorado is also going to buy one so I can actually appreciate it in real life.